I bought this ranch with sweat, grit, and a damn near empty bank account. Over 200 acres of rolling pastures, a pristine pond glistening in the Texas sun, and a house I built myself, nail by nail. For years, I lived quietly with my dogs, horses, and a pair of binoculars for hawk watching. Life was peace. That is, until something strange caught my eye near the east field, right behind my livestock shed. Welcome to Prodigy Tales. Make sure you like and subscribe for your top-notch HOA drama. At first, I thought it was a snake, long and coiled, stretching deep through the brush. But when I looked closer, I realized it was a damn pipe. A thick, industrial-grade PVC line running right through my land, half buried under hay and camouflaged with dirt. My gut twisted. This thing hadn't been here last week. I walked the line like it was a crime scene, tracing it through thorny undergrowth, past cow tracks and fences. It ran straight from the edge of my spring well, the very heart of my property. Now, I ain't no dummy. I knew something shady was going down. This wasn't some accidental plumbing job. Somebody had installed this thing with purpose and precision. The thing even had clamps and a valve. Who the hell sneaks onto someone's land and builds an underground pipeline without a word? I followed it further, eyes squinting in the morning sun, until I found the tail end vanishing into the woods bordering the HOA-run subdivision. And that's when my blood boiled. Those snooty lawn-worshipping HOA folks had been moaning for weeks about their water issues and how the municipal pressure wasn't keeping up with their irrigation needs. I thought it was just talk. But now, this was more than HOA gossip. This was theft, bold and illegal. I ran back to my barn, snapped photos, grabbed my drone, and sent it flying along the pipeline route. Sure enough, it led right into a cluster of backyards, manicured green oases with freshly watered flowers and fountains suddenly gurgling with joy. Using my water, without permission, without payment. I didn't say a word that day. I just watched. I planned. And I smiled like a rattlesnake. The next morning, I printed out every photo from my drone like I was building a legal case for Judge Judy herself. I marched down to the HOA office, a smug little building that looked like it was designed by a suburban dictator. And who was waiting inside? Karen, queen of the cul-de-sac. She was in her usual uniform, flamingo pink power suit, a clipboard thicker than a Bible, and that tight little smile she uses right before she stabs someone in the back with a policy clause. I slapped the folder of evidence onto her desk and leaned in. "This pipe is running through my ranch," I said, calm as a preacher before a storm. "It's stealing my water, and I know exactly where it ends up, right in your perfect little flower beds." She didn't even blink. She opened the folder, flipped through a few pictures, and gave a slow, drawn-out sigh like I was interrupting her spa day. "Oh, that," she said, like I'd caught her borrowing sugar. "It's just a temporary solution. The HOA has been struggling with water shortages. Your ranch has an abundant natural supply. You weren't using all of it anyway." I nearly choked. "Excuse me?" She folded her hands like she was giving a TED Talk. "The water technically moves through the community. It's part of the shared ecosystem. We're just rerouting it for neighborhood benefit. You should be proud, honestly. Your ranch is finally of good use." I swear I felt a vein in my forehead start to throb. I reminded her, in no uncertain terms, that private land is not part of anyone's ecosystem, but mine. That trespassing and theft were not up for HOA interpretation. She offered me a glass of cucumber water and said she'd bring it up next quarter's board meeting. By the time I walked out of that office, steam was coming off my boots. Karen had just declared war with that smug look and her backyard water park funded by my stolen spring. I knew they wouldn't stop, not unless I made them. And buddy, I was already drawing blueprints in my mind. A week went by. 7 long days of watching that pipe hum like a snake on steroids, pumping my spring water straight into HOAville. Every day, the subdivision lawns glowed greener, their fountains bubbled higher, and those fake smiling neighbors walked their dogs like they owned the world. Meanwhile, my well started to dip. I'd worked years maintaining that spring, cleared the mud, reinforced it with stone, installed a natural filter system, and now it was bleeding out to feed Karen's cursed hydrangeas. I fired off complaint letters, emails, and even filed a report with the local county water authority. Guess what I got in return? A soggy pamphlet from the HOA labeled Community Sharing and Environmental Cooperation. You know what it said? That my ranch was part of a natural watershed catchment, and that by allowing flow, I was contributing to a sustainable, eco-forward neighborhood model. I nearly threw up. So I marched back down to Karen's glass castle, this time with a copy of my water rights deed and a whole damn slideshow. She barely looked up from her lunch, salmon salad and that ever-present smugness. Mr. Thomas, she said, we've reviewed your concerns. The board has determined that no further action is necessary. Your contribution is valuable, and you should feel honored. Honored? I hissed. You're bleeding me dry. You're helping the community, she chirped back. The board even considered sending you a thank you basket. I asked her point blank if they'd cut the pipe. Her eyes twinkled like the devil himself had moved in. No, but we'd be happy to name one of our walking trails after you. Something rustic. Thomas Creek, perhaps? That was it. The moment she said that, something clicked. Karen and her board of water thieves had pushed too far. They thought I was just a dumb rancher with a patchy beard and calloused hands. But I've got brains, and plumbing tools, and, more importantly, a massive old tank tucked behind my barn that hadn't been used in years. I smiled, nodded politely, and left without a word. But in my mind, the plan was already hatching. They wanted water? Fine. They'd get plenty, but it wasn't going to be the kind they'd enjoy. It took me 3 nights, a case of Red Bull, and enough duct tape to wrap a small planet. I waited till the moon was high and the coyotes howled like they were cheering me on. First, I shut off the valve to my spring. Clean water? Off limits. Then I rerouted the line, surgically and beautifully, right into my old septic overflow tank. Yep, the one that hadn't been drained since 2017. Sludge, rot, and unholy filth aged like fine wine. I even stirred it with a metal rod to make sure it was nice and chunky. Karen wanted flow. She was going to get biblical flow. By dawn, everything was locked in place. The illegal HOA pipe that once drank from my crystal spring now had a new best friend, industrial-grade liquid karma. And boy, it didn't take long. The first sign was the birds. They stopped landing in Karen's backyard. Then came the smell. A noxious fog wafted over their pristine picket fences like death in a cloud. By afternoon, every lawn on the block looked like a battlefield. Flowers wilted, grass turned a violent shade of brown, and the beloved fountains, bubbling brown foam like they'd been possessed. Karen called an emergency HOA meeting that afternoon. The entire board showed up wearing masks and panic. I sat at the back, arms crossed, watching the chaos unfold like it was reality TV. Karen's mascara was halfway down her cheeks, and her beloved designer pumps were stained from stepping in her now swampy lawn. Someone poisoned our irrigation, she shrieked, clutching her pearls. This is sabotage, I raised a hand. Oh, I thought y'all said my water was a community gift. Just doing my part. She spun on me. You diverted sewage through our system. Technically, I said with a smirk. You stole a pipe off private land without permission. What flows through it after that? Not my problem. They had no defense. I had surveillance footage, timestamps, and legal documentation proving every inch of that pipe trespassed my property. The best part, the Water Authority found out too. They launched an investigation into them for illegal utility tapping and improper waste handling. Fines were already flying like confetti. Karen's kingdom of green collapsed in a single day. Her backyard smelled like Satan's armpit, and no one in the neighborhood would even wave at her anymore. She wasn't HOA royalty now. She was just the woman who flushed her whole board down a pipe of karma. The end. Please like and subscribe for more HOA showdowns like this. Do you think Karen got what she deserved? Comment below.